Hey, Rock and Metal Guardians, welcome back to the channel, the Rock and Metal Guardian, where you are the Rock and Metal Guardian. Today I'm going to talk about my top 25 favorite epic length tracks of all time. Before I get started, I want to mention my cutoff point. These will be songs that are 8 minutes or longer, which meant that some songs that are near and dear to my heart because they're 7.5, or 7 and change didn't make the cut. But after a lot of thought, I realized that they didn't make the cut because they're not the best of the best. They're close, but they're not best of the best. So let's go ahead and get started with number 25 is Sonic Titan by the band Sleep. This is on the Sciences album, just a all-around heavy doom metal album from the boys. And I had the great joy seeing them live, I think back in 2018, and they played this because it was for that tour. They played this song, Sonic Titan. It was wonderful. I liked it even better live, but if you're not familiar with the band or this particular album or the song, and you like doom metal, I highly suggest you look into them. They're great. So Sonic Titan at number 25 by the band Sleep. Number 24 is The Magician's Birthday by Uriah Heep, the title track there and the follow-up to Demons and Wizards. And you got a great song because it's about good and evil. Some of these are that way. And David Byron's powerful voice, he plays both the protagonist and the villain, and so his voice register would change depending on which role he's playing. And then you have Mick Box playing some serious heavy metal wah-wah guitar as kind of playing off what David Byron's doing, and of course the rest of the band. So just a great song. I almost put Paradise / The Spell, but I give the song just a slight edge over that one. So had I not put this one here, Paradise the Spell would have fallen here at number 24. Number 23 is The Musical Box by Genesis on the Nursery Crime album, and it opens up the CD or album, and what you get here is some just great vocals from Peter Gabriel. You always get great vocals from Peter Gabriel, but here I think here's one of the moments where he may be at his best, and you also have some flute from him, and perhaps my favorite moments of the song, in addition to what Peter's doing. The rest of the band's great, as I said, but what I really like is Steve Hackett's guitar here. It's heavy and rich at times, so just a great song. Number 22 is Metallica's song Orion, the instrumental on Master of Puppets. And when I listen to this, I can't but help think of the song Part 2 of The Necromancer on Rush's Caress of Steel. There's something about the middle section of Orion that reminds me of that. It's just got this vibe or feel, and I know Hammett is a Rush fan, and just the pounding and the way the four guys in Metallica are jamming on the song is reminiscent of the way Peart, Lee, and Lifeson are jamming in that middle section on Necromancer. So, and it's one of these songs that ends the way it begins, and it's just something I love. So next is 21, which is Genesis' Supper's Ready. And when I listen to this song, I often think about what would it have been like had they kept the movements that make up this piece as separate tracks. And when I listen to this, sometimes I think it doesn't work. I listened to it last night, and it was one of those moments where I was like, it does work. Now, regardless of whether they had kept it separate and listed them as separate songs that blend into each other, it really doesn't matter. This song works so well. It's just a powerful piece, musically, thematically, lyrically, the band firing on all cylinders. This song is to Genesis what 2112 is to Rush, but for different reasons. They're not, lyrically and thematically the same. So 20 is another Genesis song, Fountain of Salampsis on the Nursery Crime album also. And Fountain of Salampsis is an homage to Greek mythology. It's a song about a god or a demigod who goes under a major transformation. The literary companion to this can be found in Ovid's Metamorphosis, a Roman poet. So great song. Number 19 is Heart of the Sunrise by Yes. And I've mentioned the song before in a previous video too, where I love how Steve Howe and Chris Squire trade off licks for bass and guitar, and then you have John Anderson coming in where it changes into the soft, lush, and melancholy, looking on the theme of love. Love comes to you, and then after, right, that part, and then it goes back to being heavy and just back and forth. It's that light and shade that Jimmy Page talks about in some of his interviews, or when he was first starting Led Zeppelin, moving away from the Yardbirds. Just a great song. The closer to the Fragile CD. Next is number 18, Cygnus X1, Book 1, The Voyage on A Farewell to Kings. You have that wonderful bass. And then Pert kicks in with the drums. Just great jazz fusion song, if you ask me. Number 17, Call of Cthulhu, or The Call of Cthulhu by Metallica on the Ride the Lightning album. A song co-written by Mustaine, though he doesn't play on the album. Kirk Hammett does a nice job playing the parts that he wrote. And it's essentially, in my terms, a classic. It's part classical music, part heavy metal. So the opening has a excuse me. The opening has a classical music vibe to it, and then it gets heavier as we move along through the piece there. And then there's motifs where it goes back to previous sections of the song, and then the way the song ends, hard to describe. There's nothing like it. The way the song ends is just very powerful, and just overall, arguably one of Metallica's most compelling pieces, if not one of the most compelling instrumentals of all time, regardless of how heavy it is at times. Number 16 is the wonderful Close to the Edge, 23 minutes and change, the title track of that the title track of that album. And Close to the Edge ends the way it begins, something I'm just very fond of, with the birds, that pastoral. But, after the song opens with that pastoral moment of the birds waking up, and it gets really heavy right off the bat. And then you have, again, the wonderful, word I'm looking for, wonderful soft-spoken vocals from John Anderson. And then in the middle section, you get Chris Squire on lead vocals. And he's just a great companion vocalist to what John Anderson does, whether he's singing lead or backing vocals to what John does. So, great song. Number 15 is Magnum Opus by Kansas, whether you're talking about the live or the studio version. I prefer the live version because I find the violin is a little more eerie and compelling and haunting there. And it sounds like, whether intended or not, kind of a movement into a descent into hell motif, if you will. And again, it's very dark. And the way that if you listen to the Fragile album by Yes, each song is a moment for each member of the band to showcase their talents. This song is a way for each member of the band, in a way, to showcase their talents one at a time. It starts with Steinhardt's violin, then you get into Steve Walsh's vocals, or before that you get some keyboard, and then you get a wonderful heavy guitar from Rich Williams and Kerry Livgren. Just all over the band is showcasing their talents. I guess hence the title of the epic track there. So just a great song. Number 14, Echoes by Pink Floyd on the Metal album. You get that sonar blip sound that repeats itself throughout the track at times. It's like 23 minutes long. And then you get this haunting soundscape of what it's either a whale or an albatross. The song reminds me of the Coleridge poem, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, because of that. And then you get the wonderful soft-spoken vocals from David Gilmour at the beginning, and then the end, circling back to the way the song began in many ways. So I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff. Next is the live version of Zeppelin's Dazed and Confused. Don't have to say much about this. This is a beloved song by so many Zeppelin fans and rock fans in general. The way he teases the crowd with he's got the violin bow across the strings, and he stops and then he back and forth right with the crowd. Just great stuff. Number 12 is Child in Time by Deep Purple. This is a wonderful song in the sense that there's a handful of songs out there in the 70s, especially where you have, like Stairway to Heaven, this song too begins slow but compelling, and it's all moving towards that second half that last third of the song where there's this heavy section. It's all building up towards that heaviness, and here you have Ian Gillan screaming at the top of his lungs, and at the end of the song, you have everything come crashing down, almost quite literally, because it sounds like the instruments are falling down on themselves, crashing to the ground, as if someone had hurled them down a mountain or something, and you hear, discordant sounds from guitars and Lord knows what else, basses and the drums. One big crash. Just great. Next, number 11 is Stargazer by Rainbow. Many people, myself included, point to this as the highlight of Rainbow's career, whether you're talking about Ronnie James Dio being in the band or not. Some have compared this as an homage to Led Zeppelin's Kashmir. I kind of get that. I wouldn't say quite exactly, but I get the comparison. Just a great song. My favorite. So many people, it's their favorites. Number 10, The Gates of Delirium by Yes. Here we have Patrick Moraz in the band, and he's the best part of the song, I think. He makes the keyboard sound so heavy at times, and I think he steals the show in the song. The whole song is wonderful. What everyone's doing, the whole band is wonderful, but I think he's the central component as to why this is my favorite Yes song. All right, so number 9 is Lark's Tongues and Aspic title track, part 1, and it's essentially a collage of heavy metal and jazz and classical music all rolled into one. Number 8 is By Tor and the Snow Dog on the All the World's a Stage. So the live version, part of what I like about the song is you get this backing track that is this haunting soundscape in the background that is meant to mirror or echo the Snow Dogs meeting with By Tor on the outskirts of Hades, if you will. And, of course, it's very atmospheric. And then, of course, also you have, whether it's a click track or not, or literally Alex pulling a bow across the guitar, homage to Jimmy Page, I'm not sure, but it's great. It's much more richer than the studio version, although I like the studio version too. Number 7, Achilles' Last Stand by Led Zeppelin. Here you have a song that's an homage to Greek mythology, but it's also speaks volumes about the human condition for us, and of course personal for Robert Plant because he had broken his ankle. Number 6 is Firth of Fifth by Genesis. This has got to be my favorite Genesis song, I think, of all time on Selling England by the Pound. I just love the intro by Tony Banks and then the guitar playing by Steve Hackett. Steve Hackett is phenomenal. Number 5 is the Pink Floyd song Dogs. Roger Waters and Gilmour share vocals on this. Gilmour starts the vocals, and then the guitar playing by Gilmour is my favorite. The bluesy soloing he does on here is just outstanding. Number 4 is 2112 by Rush. The music is heavy and dense and light at times and powerful and intoxicating. So many things can be used to describe 2112. I could write a book on that, but one of the things I like about it the most is the lyrics, and it's about nonconformity and following your passion despite the fact that others might not get it. Number 3 is Xanadu. It's very classical sounding and yet progressive at the same time. Just very powerful, thematically rich as well. I've spoken about this before. Number 2 is Starless by King Crimson. Talk about songs that go from light to heavy. John Wetton sings in a very, very melancholy and soft-spoken fashion, but this is all building up to this electronic, funk, and hard rock and heavy metal jazz bit at the end. It's essentially the second half of the song is a heavy metal track. Just so powerful and compelling. Finally is the Exit Stage Left version of La Via Strangiato. Of all the versions, this is my favorite, and there are many versions. This is the reason I like this song so much is because it demonstrates how passionate Lee Lifeson and Part were with respect to their love of music. And I'll leave it at that. Now, I'd very much like to hear your thoughts on my list, and please in the comments section, tell me what your favorite, even if it's all 25, of your favorite epic songs of all time. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.